Okay. Good morning. I am Katrina. I own Reach Life Management. It is a Christian small business and individual consulting company. And I'm here with Lori Gasca, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. She is one amazing woman I have had the opportunity to work with since literally the beginning of my entrepreneur career. I'm excited to get to talk to her today. And Lori, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Well, hey guys, I'm Lori Gasca, and it has been an honor to watch Katrina just blossom and bloom into her business and kind of figure out what her sweet spot is and what she wants to do, which is such an important thing for entrepreneurs because we can be all over the place. But she's really found her spot, and I love it. And she's also a mama with a little baby that is just I love hearing the baby sounds. I just love it. You want to go not have a baby ever again? No, my babies are 19 to 26, but grandchildren would be really nice. I'm excited for that.
I
Really
have
excited
told
for
people before I'm excited for grandchildren. I might be a good ways off from that, but I am
that.
excited for
Yeah.
grandchildren.
Yeah. So I am too. I'm really excited. And I may be a ways off too, girl. You could be having them before I do. They don't seem to be in a hurry, but I hope they don't hear this. You know some of my kids. So well, hey, so let's see. What about me? I grew up in a really small Texas town. I feel like I am a Texas girl, country girl through and through, no matter where I am, no matter where I end up, can't get rid of the country in me. My kids laugh because they're like, when you go to Cold Spring, Mom, you just sound different. I'm like, it just comes out. It just oozes out. I can't help it. But from a very young age, probably around the age of, I'm going to guess like 8, 9, 10, something like that. I started my entrepreneurial journey by walking down the sidewalk. We were in a small town. So my parents did know where we were, and it was relatively safe. Walking down the sidewalk, 1 block over to the town square, and walking into the little general store and asking for my first job. I was highly offended when they laughed at me because they, what I mean, and I think about it now. I'm like, well, of course, if a 9-year-old walks in and asks me for a job, I'm probably gonna chuckle at them too. But I was even more offended like a couple weeks later when I got in the mail because there was no Amazon Prime overnight. It took a while to get things. But I got books saying, how children can make money and how, and I was like, I still remember that feeling like, really? You're going to just put me off like that? Like I asked you for a job. I'm totally capable like that. It's kind of been my whole life story. Like I'm capable, and then I get myself into situations where maybe I'm not so capable. But yeah, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, and Katrina and I crossed paths when I opened one of my latest ventures in life, which is the Grove Workspace for Women. It closed in September 2023, and it's okay. When I say that, people are like, "Oh no!" And I was like, "No, it's okay. It was totally a God thing." And there's a wonderful community there now, which is something that's just near and dear to my heart. Is just community and creating community. And I've learned through trial and error and through experience of many years of entrepreneurialism. There's enough to go around, and I think that's where, as an entrepreneur, we get so nervous about not having enough at the end of the day that we don't embrace working with other people or embrace community like we should, because we've just got to keep it all for us so that we can survive. And that shifted in me, a number of years ago, especially with the Grove. Like I saw these beautiful women coming into work and just all different backgrounds, all different experiences, all different jobs, even sometimes the same jobs, or sometimes directly competing industries, and they would come together and still support each other and be loving towards each other. And I was like, wow, this is a really great way to do things. So thank you for having me. This is a really passionate topic for me.
I was going to fill out the rest of the speakers, and the moment I read the topic again, I was like, why have I not messaged Lori directly? And I was like, I posted it up, but I should probably message Lori because she would be perfect.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
I love what you said. We for so long, entrepreneurs have looked at each other as strictly competition. as opposed to community. I think it came up in one of our, either the last event that we had in this series or the one before it. It was, excuse me, it was a specific point that was made, like, we are not just competition, especially as small businesses. We
Right.
are community, right?
Should
I
be.
may not be the best fit for a client, and I can't look at it as I have to keep this client. I have to look at it as, is this the best fit for me and for the client? And that's when you reach out to your community, which is likely to have people who are in the same competing industry,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
if you don't have that community, then it's just not as easy to make sure that you are connecting with each other in the way that
Yeah.
that is important to do that, especially with small business owners in the Christian category, right? Because there's so much secular information out there that is so easy to fall back on when you get to a place where you don't have that community, right? And I think that topic will come out later in this
Well,
discussion, right?
well,
Like
because it's on, it's
idea.
in my, I'm like, I gotta, yeah,
Yes.
I want to talk about that so much. It's just making me, because really when you're saying that though, as a Christian community, I think, oh my goodness, I don't want to get into this too much, but I really do think that's where the church fails us, because the church does not create true community.
Yeah.
Because the purpose, the, the path to true community is always starts with authenticity and
Mhm.
vulnerability. If we do not show up in authenticity and vulnerability with the people around us, we will never get past that surface level of networking, which I
Right.
cannot stand networking. And Sunday, and I know my husband's like, why do you do what you do? Like, you don't even like networking. And I'm like, because it's so different these days. Like, it's really different when it's soul human
Yeah.
focused, as soul as an SOUL, human focus. Like, it's not about how many connections can I make, how many business cards can I hand out, how many hands can I shake, how many people can know my name. It's about the people who are coming in contact with me truly feeling like they've been looked in the eyes, they've been
Mhm.
seen, they've been loved, they've been hugged, they've been, and the only way we can do that is if we show up vulnerably enough that they feel comfortable to let their walls down and be seen, you know, and that's,
Right.
and that we don't do that in church. Like, that's where it should
Yeah.
start. Like, our model for this should be our local church.
Right. And I've been a part of a mega church before, right? With the funds and the capabilities and the manpower to reach out and do all of that. And I've worked directly with a small church who's very focused on biblical principle, right? And both churches still have an issue with their connection and their drawing people in and putting them together and
Mhm.
setting them in community, right? You'll find the
Mhm.
same few people volunteering. You'll find the same few people coming in and leaving without talking to anybody, right? It's like it's the same cycles, right?
Yeah.
And the the Bible is very specific on you can't do this alone, all the way back to Adam and Eve. If we could have done this alone,
We would
Adam
just
would
be a
have been
world of
left alone.
atoms.
Yeah. Like Adam would have been left alone.
Yeah.
God said, it is not good. It is not good that he's alone. So I will give him a companion. And then it was good. Community is one of the very first things that we were shown biblically, right? And it isn't given enough weight in all realms, right?
Yeah.
I've talked about like the holistic view of the body before in other conversations. Community is one of those branches you
Sure.
have to take a look at in order to grow,
Yeah.
right? Who are you surrounding yourself? Why are you surrounding yourself? Like, who is your community?
You know, and I wish I had the solution to it. So I really do hate to bring up a problem that I don't have a solution for. but I don't really have a solution for it because I've been in the same churches, I think some of the same churches as you, and I do agree that they do try. Like they do try. Like they
Yeah.
have small group setups and they have all the activities. It's just how do you get someone to actually plug in and join? Like I don't
Right.
think because with the church that we're at now, there's a food pantry, and I just decided, okay, I'm gonna start volunteering there, and it actually has given me like this sense of belonging because
Mhm.
it's a newer church that we're going to, well, newer for us, and just walking into church and seeing familiar faces, right? So it gives you the sense of belonging in this bigger church. So
Mhm.
I don't know. It's crazy, but so community is so important like that. It's just so important. And I think there's various layers of community. I think
Oh
that,
yeah.
I think you've got your inner circle people that, probably is going to include some people from your immediate family that you live within the same walls in, but then you're going to have my husband's always said, if you have one or two really, really true friends in life, you're considered blessed.
Mm.
And, those people that, you want to pick up the phone and call
Yeah.
every day when something happens. Like I want to tell her this, I want to tell, and then you've got your, little bit bigger circle of people who maybe you interact with on a regular basis. And then you've got the people that are just more of acquaintances. Right. So there's different layers. There's different layers of community, but yeah.
Yes. And when we've hit on church, right? But when we tie that back to business, the people that you surround yourself with, the community you involve yourself with, the other entrepreneurs, the even your clients, right? They're going to be part of your community as you add them on, and making sure that
Absolutely.
you are connecting yourself to your business community that's going to lift you up in the way that you need to be lifted up, right? And as a Christian entrepreneur, it's so easy to find secular business owners online that are like teaching all these things that will lead you down a path that's so different from what God would have called your business to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not surrounding yourself with a community that also places themselves in a biblical point, right? And connects themselves with God, and it's going to distract you from where God's calling you to do.
Yeah.
With your business, if you're not surrounding yourself with a business community,
Right.
that you're supposed to be a part of.
Well, and I think that's what as someone who has an entrepreneurial brain, like we're kind of wired to think that we can do it all by ourselves. and that is sometimes the benefit of being an entrepreneur, right? You don't have to go to an office. You don't have to be in the daily grind. It's kind of your choice how you do things. And I think a lot of us start to think like, I can do this by myself. And I did for many years. I did really do it by myself, even with a team of as many as 7,000 people in my direct sales business. I still felt like there were a lot of times that I was doing it by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't really anyone's fault but mine, because I had the mentality that there may not be enough to go around. So if I bring people in to work with me and really join forces with me, they may get those enrollments and I won't get those enrollments. It's just such a limited mindset. But it makes me think about the Jim Rohn quote that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I really saw that come to life when I was growing up in that little small Texas town that I talked about. We didn't have many options for restaurants back in that town. The population was probably close to 500 when I lived there. And I don't think it's much more now. It's really small when I say small. But there was this local Greasy Spoon country diner that's still there today. It's changed names and ownership over the years, but it's been there for probably, oh my goodness, close to 50 years, maybe. Gives my age away. But when we would go there to eat as a child, I have this core memory in my brain of like walking in and seeing this round table that was sitting real close to the front door of just, it seemed to me like the same men were sitting there every time I went in. Now, as my that's my little kid brain processing this, and they would all sit around the table and I could just hear them telling stories and talking to, drink their coffee, eat their greasy food. They would talk about, what's growing in the fields, all the things, and their gossip and all that. And it just intrigued me so much as a child, because I was like, I wondered what these men did with their life. Like, is the round table, like at the diner, their life? Like, and here's the thing though, they spent so much time together that they became their average. And they probably smoked, they ate greasy food, they were unhealthy and overweight, they walked with a painful looking gait that, and I thought, wow, even as a kid, I'm like, they've become their average, and it's so important. And they may have been the best friends in the world. And I don't want anybody to take offense to it who reads this, or hears this, but that it's so true. Like, who do I have at my round table? Who are the people who are sitting at my table, so to speak, even if it's not a physical table at a diner, but who are those people that are like sharpening me? What are they making me become? Are they making me better, or are they not making me better? And it's I think before anything, before we even dive into this conversation more, that's the first question anyone listening needs to ask themselves. Like, let's just do an assessment. Who are the 3 to 5 people in your life that are your advice givers, your go-to people, your daily, I'm going to reach out to them, or daily, I want to talk to them? I mean, who are these people in your life? And do they deserve a seat at your table? Do they deserve a seat at your table? Or is it time for you to ask them to leave your table? Or is there someone that you want to invite to your table that's not at your table? I think an honest assessment is probably where you have to start.
Oh, I loved that word you added there. An honest assessment. We tend to think it's taboo to leave people behind as we move through and outgrow certain stages of life. Yeah. I know, looking back just in the last, oh my goodness, over 8 years, right? When I had my son, like my circle is so different. I might have 1 or 2 people that I had at the time of having my son, because once I had him, the drastic change in me to become a mom led my group to shrink.
Yeah.
Because I knew I outgrew them, and it was okay to outgrow them. And as I've entered into my business era, right, as I have tried to find my community, I was involved with other networking groups that I was like, you know what, I've really outgrown this, because that's just not the point I need my business to be at. That's not what my business is.
Right. And and the word outgrown, and I know what you're saying, can have a negative connotation. And it's not necessarily that you've outgrown them in a bad way. You've just grown differently than them. Yeah. And there's, there is, when you were talking about, people not being in your life anymore, I think there is a good way and a not so good way to do that, because I think sometimes relationships that are over end poorly, and I've had that. Definitely, I've had that. But I also think that it's okay to know that some people are in your life just for a season, and that you don't have to hang on to them forever and ever if it's just a seasonal relationship. And that's not meaning that it's not an important, meaningful relationship at the time, because it makes me think of when our boys played baseball. Like, we traveled with these families, we did all the things, we really became close with these families. But when baseball was over, we may not have had so much in common with these families apart from that, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's so many families over the years with our 2 boys playing travel ball that we just have such fond memories of, and there's no ill thought or ill anything. It's just that that was a seasonal relationship, and it's okay. Like, that's really okay. And yeah, I lost my thought because, this is only my first cup of coffee. This is by this time in the morning, I've usually had a couple cups of coffee and some time with Jesus. So I do have 5 people that I think every person needs to have in their community and at their table. And can we go through those real quick?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the first one is a friend, which seems obvious, but this is not just an acquaintance. This is a friend, the Proverbs 18:24 friend, the friend that sticketh closer than a brother, right? So this is who you want. This is the person who knows your truest heart's desires. They don't judge you for it. They encourage you, and it's not the thousands of friends on Facebook. This is your true friend. They know your secrets and they keep your secrets and they love you anyway. So that's the kind of friend you need. And like I said before, my husband said, you got one of those, you're doing good, so you don't need multitudes of friends. You need 1 or 2 really close friends.
Right.
The second one is a mentor, which is something near and dear to my heart, which I've really been kind of coming back to Titus 2 quite often in the last few months. Is the September 23 is when the Grove workspace closed. And so I was kind of been in a transition phase. Like, where do you want me, God? Like, what is now? What does this look like? I realized that I was always defining myself by what I did, not who I was. And so when people are like, well, what do you do now? I'm like, I don't know what I do now, and so not having that answer was hard. So, but now I know that the Lord has me where that in that Titus 2 woman phase, because as much as I hate to admit it, I am one of the older ones in the community. And Titus 2 says that the older generation should train the younger generation. And I think that means in everything. That means in business. That means in life. That means in parenting, relationships. So a mentor, if you go to Proverbs 12:15, it says, the way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man listens to advice. So the mentor's role, their primary role, is to point you in the right direction, either formally or informally. It's one of those, Psalm 42:7 says, deep calls to deep. So let's let that sink in for a minute. So we're all in this, we all experience trials that kind of wash over us like a waterfall. So think of yourself like getting washed over like a waterfall. So some people are going to see you in those deep waters and they're going to pull up a chair to watch. Because they're going to be like, oh, I'm going to watch this show. I'm going to see what's happening. Some people are going to see you struggling in the deep waters and they're just going to want to throw you a lifeline, a safety device or whatever, just to get from the side. They're not going to jump in, but they're going to try to help you. They're just going to do it superficially. But the mentor is the person who recognizes those struggles as a necessity for growth. And they help you see the purpose in it. And she doesn't just watch the show. She doesn't just try to bail you out, but she's willing to jump in and go in those deep waters with you. So your mentor is that person who is literally going to be in the water with you. She's going to be in the water with you. And then you need a coach. So you got a friend, you got a mentor, you got a coach. So the best coach that I can think of in the Bible is Deborah. And that, and it's in Judges. And Deborah was the only woman in the Bible. I'm sure there were probably more, but it was very rare. But she was the only woman in the Bible who was a judge. And she was called the mother of Israel. She was called the mother of Israel, but she was also a charismatic military leader. So she was this woman who was strong and had a presence and was fierce, but she was still a mother. And so she still could do that with love. And I just love that picture of her. And that's kind of like the coach that I had in high school for volleyball. Like, she would kill us, like run us to death. We would want to throw up. Like, it was the toughest thing, but we always knew how much she cared for us. Like, it was never done maliciously or with ill intent. It was just, we just knew she was trying to get the best out of us and prepare us for battle. Right.
Yeah.
So that's what your coach is going to do. 2 more. So cheerleader. / encourager. So that all of these can kind of merge a little bit.
Yeah, like
They can,
overlap in certain areas.
because as I say cheerleader, I think of one of my friends who's one of my cheerleaders. So that it's just kind of, it does merge. But 1 Thessalonians 5:11 says, therefore encourage one another and build one another up. So your encourager and your cheerleader is there when you can't believe in yourself. This person will believe in you. They're going to root for you. They're going to remind you of your worth and your value. They're going to help you get unstuck.
Mm.
And we can have multiple cheerleaders, but we can't only have cheerleaders.
Yeah.
We need the balance of the hard truth tellers too. Like we really do need that. And then finally, the last one is kind of what we're talking about here. And this is your peer group. Your peer group, these are the people that are going to be your iron sharpeners. It's going to be people who are somewhat fairly equal to your level of success. They're going to support you peer to peer. They're going to understand what you're experiencing in business, in your phase of business. It's like my husband used to always say. He used to work for a company that supplied to the restaurant industry. And they did a lot of studies on restaurants that were the most successful. And we would be driving down the road, and just in the middle of nowhere, there'd be 2 restaurants side by side, and there'd be nothing else. And he was like, those restaurants are doing great. And I was like, how do you know that? And he goes, because they have a symbiotic relationship. And I was like, please do tell. What is a symbiotic relationship? So he told me in his words with that. But when I was really diving into this, I was like, I'm going to look up what symbiotic relationship really means. So it's relationships between organisms where one organism benefits from the association while not harming the other. So those restaurants did well because they were side by side, because as you and I were talking about earlier before we came on camera, is like, we can't serve everyone. Katrina cannot serve everyone that needs to be served in the way with what she offers. So when we have come along with someone that we have gotten to know well enough that we know can serve the people around us, that's when that symbiotic relationship works, because that's referrals,
Right.
But they're truly vetted referrals. Like, I know this person is going to be able to help you because I've been in a relationship with this person. I'm not just collecting business cards or in a referral networking group and like, I have to give so many referrals, so I'm going to give you 25 referrals, and not know anything about that person. So Proverbs 27:17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. So, I mean, those are the people you need in your life. There's something about iron sharpening I want to tell you. I thought this was really interesting, and then I can stop talking because I've been on a roll. So when you are sharp, have you ever seen anybody sharpen a knife?
Yes.
You hear it? I mean, I can just hear that sound. So what happens is when you're using a knife, okay, this is so fascinating, because when you look at a knife, all you see is like this hard piece of steel. But actually along the blade, there's these tiny, tiny microscopic fibers on the edge of the knife, and they bend or they break when it encounters resistance. And it can be the softest of resistance, but over time, they're going to bend and break. So what happens is the sharpening of the steel is going to straighten out or realign those fibers. Okay, so think about this scripture as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. So when we get to a place where we've kind of gotten a little dull, right? Our edges have been bent and broken a little bit. Our iron sharpener comes along and helps us realign those fibers. It's called steeling. The process is called steeling, steeling. So regular steeling of a knife is recommended, because the more often you steal, the longer it will stay sharp. Isn't that pretty cool? Like, if you think about like, whoa, what an iron sharpener in your life does.
I think that really ties into the idea of the fact that if you have a strong community, right, your group of 5 or the group of 4 and your peer group, right? The point is to keep you in alignment.
Yes.
And And that's what the Bible acknowledges, right? Like the goal, the point of community, the reason why we can't do this by ourselves is because if we tried to do it by ourselves, we'd fail,
Yeah.
right? And our current world, right? Because this series was set up to speak to the Christian entrepreneurs.
Sure.
It's set up to reach out and be like, here's information, here's a group of people that I know very strongly will help you while you're trying to start or work through this entrepreneur journey as a Christian entrepreneur, right?
Sure.
Because if you try to walk the entrepreneurial journey by yourself without that community, it is so easy already in this world to fall out of alignment with God.
Yeah.
And if you are trying to build a business for God without people who are building businesses for God, what you're going to hear is profits. That's all you need to be focused on. Doesn't matter about who you're serving.
Hustle, all the,
It doesn't matter about taking breaks. You can't rest while you're an entrepreneur, which is so wrong. God literally says you need to take the whole day to rest and be in community with him for Sabbath, right? Like however you put, wherever you align the importance of community is going to acknowledge how aligned you are with God, right?
I agree. And what did you say like earlier when we were talking? I started with the Jim Rohn quote for those of you who are just watching, like, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. What did you say?
I said, imagine if I can't remember how I said it, but I was like, what if Jesus was one of the most important people in your life? What if he was the one you spent the most time with? How would that impact you?
What would that look like? Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was so good.
As one of the main people in your community, right? If honestly, if I had to pick, like, Jesus has been my main cheerleader. Like everything that I've done, everything that I've walked in my more recent life, right, has been encouraged on by him. Like it's all prayer based. Like God, I'm not taking this step unless this is for you. And then I'll feel the encouragement. I'll see however God's pushing me, right? Like God has been one of my biggest cheerleaders through every step of life, through my business, because I've made sure to make him the main person for it, right? Like I know nothing in this world matters except for making sure I'm following Jesus.
Yeah. I think, and we do get that out of line, and I can tell you this, like in the past couple years, I have 100% seen that in my life when, like, I was joking saying this is so early for me because I'm only on my first cup of coffee, but normally I've already been up for an hour or so, but I'm sitting hour and a half and sitting in my chair, and I sit in my chair with my Bible and with Jesus and just listening, sometimes just staring out the window. Admittedly, sometimes I get on the phone, which I shouldn't scroll, but just listening, and it has totally shifted everything in my life, everything. And he really does encompass all the 5 people that I said you need to have in your table. But I love the fact that, ask yourself, like, what would it look like if one of your 5 was Jesus? If one of your 5 was Jesus, when you really were going to be very intentional about the community you were creating, if the number one person that you put at your table is Jesus, your life is going to look so differently. And I the other day I was sitting in my chair and I had to get up and write it on the little whiteboard in the kitchen so that the rest of the family would hopefully read it. But it was kind of an aha moment with him. And he said, there's nothing you can do to make me love you any more or any less. But the more time you spend with me, the more you know.
We were just having, so my oldest is 8 right now, and we are very intentional on biblical principle and using that to tie into why we don't do things, right? We were just talking yesterday about what the scariest thing for me would ever be. And the scariest thing would be to be one of those people that gets to heaven and runs to Jesus for him to tell me that he didn't know me.
Okay, that is a little scary.
That is
Yeah.
the scariest thing I could ever think of. And we were talking about how he says to do what he did, right? Like to walk
Right.
as he walked. And it says in that, I can't remember the verse right off the top of my head, but it says there are going to be people that get to heaven and they run to Jesus and they're like, I did all these works for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jesus says, I don't know you.
Mm.
Because there are going to be people that are doing things in his name for themselves.
That's why we live in a world with a lot of church hurt.
Yes, because people believe they've convinced themselves they've done it for God when the root of their doings are pride.
Mm-hmm.
And it can't be for Jesus if it's for your pride.
Yeah.
Because God specifically says to cast yourself aside. And if you've cast yourself aside, then pride can't be there. Pride will lead to hurt. I am a big believer in the sins boiled down to pride.
Pride goes before a fall. I mean, there's so much in the Bible around pride. Like just studying that word alone is
Right.
like,
And we've discussed the idea of I don't know if we've brought in the term competition during the video, but I know we discussed it beforehand, right? If we think of every single person on the entrepreneurial journey as well as competition only,
right.
and not as a potential for community, right? That is going to be a big pride, like an internal pride issue that's going to cause your fall.
Yeah.
Not just as an entrepreneur, but potentially on your walk with Jesus in the first place.
Yeah. Well, I think I think we're lucky in some respect in the area that we live in. I know people could probably be listening and watching this from all over, but we live in an area where there are lots and lots of options for networking groups is what we'll call them, which I even just saying that word makes me, but I want you, I mean, and of course I have some to offer, but you got to be in the right one, right? And you don't need to be in all of them. I want to tell whoever's listening to this, you do not need to be in all of them. You need to be in the right one. And one may be all it takes is one community, one right community. But I was thinking about this and I was like, well, how do I know if I'm in the right community, right? Because there are so many and I've visited so many and I've gone to so many groups. So I came up with a list of 5 quick questions I will give you to ask yourself to see if you are in the right community. So first of all, number 1, this is a big one. Do you dread spending time with these people? And you chuckle because that's because you would think if I dread spending time with these people, I'm not going to be involved. How many people do I know who have come to me and said, I've been in this XYZ group forever and ever, and I just don't like it. I don't like it. Why are you still there?
Yeah.
Why are you still there? And number 2 is, do you show up out of guilt or pressure? Number 3 is, do you leave? Oh, this is so big. Do you leave feeling better about yourself than when you arrived? Number 4, would you, without a doubt, invite people to this community? And the last one is this the best use of time for your best yes?
Ooh.
So ask yourself those things, because I think as entrepreneurs, what we do is we get into this striving mindset that we have and hustle that we have to post in all the groups. We have to be members of all the Facebook groups. We have to post on Instagram. We have to post on TikTok. We have to post on LinkedIn. We have to whatever, like all the places. We have to do all these things. We have to be a member of all the groups, all the groups. I'm going to tell you right now that madness has to stop. And if that means that you come to First Mondays with me each month, and that's not your place, I released you. Go find your place, because
Yeah.
there's no need for you to spend 2 hours with me every month if that's not your place. Like,
Mhm.
that is okay. We will not fit in everywhere, and every place will not be our place. And so we have to find our community. When we find our community, we will have all those things. We'll have the friend, we'll have the mentor, we'll have the cheerleader, we'll have the peer group, we'll have the iron sharpeners. They will come with that community. But again, let's do an honest assessment.
Right.
Where are we? Where are we spending our time? Where are we putting our money? Where are we putting our effort? Because we do not have time to maintain a balanced, healthy life if all we are doing is going to networking after networking after networking group every week, posting on every group. It's not getting you anything, people. It is not getting you anything. It is literally making you a stressed out, crazy human being. Like, stop it.
Oh
Stop
yeah.
it.
And I think a lot of that stress can be taken away by releasing that to God.
Yeah.
Like if you legitimately hand, first of all, if you legitimately hand anything to God will take it for you, and he'll run that part of your area. He'll let you. If you really won't give it over, he'll let you try to handle things. And I know myself have found how poorly me handling the reins can go if I'm not handling it
I've been
over,
there.
right?
Yeah.
And if I don't see, because I have made it very intentional, right? Very more intentional very recently, that everything about my business is God's. And I've got a story about it that's from a couple videos back, but it's, so I won't go into detail about it. But I've made it very, very intentional recently. Like, it's all God's, because this is meant to, my big goal with it is to further the kingdom, however that is entailed, right? And I completely forgot what I was going to say.
You're not my age. That should not be happening to you, but it is the mom brain, I think. The mom brain is what's kicking in for you because you have an
The
infant
littlest
in
is
your
still
lap.
so little.
It will come back to you if it was meant to come back to you. What I would love to wrap with, and while you think about that and wrap up and with what I have to tell people, is that we will go back to where we started this conversation, that there is enough to go around. And when we are living the mindset that there's not going to be enough, I'm not going to get enough business, I'm not going to get enough of the referrals or whatever, we're living really based in fear. And when we live in fear, it causes us to live with our arms wrapped tightly. When our arms are wrapped tightly, whether in protection or holding on to the things we love or whatever it is, what can we do with this? We can do nothing with this.
Yeah.
Like, my arms are wrapped up tightly. But when I open my arms up wide, I start to live in a mindset of abundance and blessing and giving, because my arms are open, and receiving. Fear does not just keep you from having enough. Fear keeps you from receiving any blessings. Fear keeps you from giving freely. And I just want to encourage people to stop living with their arms so tightly wound around themselves in a protection mode, that they open their arms up and they just say, okay, God, what do you have for me? Here I am.
Yeah.
Here I am. Love God, love people, and go and make disciples. Those are like the
Yeah.
three biggest things in the Bible. Like, I can't love God, I can't love people, I can't go and make disciples when I'm living with this protective shell around myself that's called fear. Like,
Yeah.
I have to release the fear and step into some rooms that may not be comfortable for me
Yeah.
right first, just to see if I'm in the right place, just to put myself in a position where maybe these are my people, So open your arms up
I
Let it,
remember what
let it go.
I remember what I was going to say. So it was handing over handing over the idea of the community you need to God, right?
There
You
you go.
like sitting there in prayer, and there are several Bible verses we could pull up on the importance of community, right?
Right.
And if anybody needs help doing that, I am sure Lori will also
Yeah.
offer help in that area and guidance, but for sure reach out to us, right? But one of them is Hebrews 10, 24 and 25, right? It says, let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds, right? Going back to love and not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another. Because the community that you're supposed to be in, right? Like you are supposed to be lifting up and moving each other and connecting and providing and lifting each other's burdens and walking together towards God.
Yeah.
And not every marketing group is for that.
No. Yeah.
There are so many marketing groups. You can step foot into your first meeting and feel the level of pride
Right.
that sits in that group.
Um,
I love First Mondays. I loved the Grove. I love Living Holistic that has taken over that community or in that space, right? That community also, like finding like those people that encourage you and want to help you and lift you up and guide you closer to God while also working on your entrepreneurial journey. Like finding that community,
right.
it does so many wonders for not just your business, but for your personal self-esteem in walking your business. Because there are a lot of times when we're walking that entrepreneurial journey that we will think of ourselves as less than another.
Of course. Yeah.
And when we get into that and stuck in that mindset, right? As I'm less than another, because that thought will always cross. You have to be able to push it aside. But if we sit in it for too long, we're going to think that just because we are not at the same level as somebody else right now, we are
Right.
not as good. We are not going to be as good. And we just need to stop.
Well,
We need
that's the comparison that the enemy wants you to have. Like the enemy, it says in the Bible, he comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Like
Mhm.
he does that mostly through one isolation and comparison. Like he does not want you in a community. He does not want you in a community of believers who are saying what you are talking about and the way you're speaking of yourself is not true.
Mhm.
What you're doing is not right. What you're, like he does not want that because he doesn't want us to be sharpened like iron.
No,
And
he loses when
yeah,
that happens.
he loses. He wants us to stay bent and broken and unusable,
Yeah.
really. So, I mean, and it's never too late to make changes. So if you're listening, you're like, oh my gosh, I've spent so many years. No, we learn from all things. We learn
Mhm.
from all things. We learn from all things. And so it's
Right.
never too late to make changes. It's never too late to course correct and
Yeah.
shift a little bit and find community and find the community that you want. There's
Yeah.
so many options out there. There's so many options. And I would really, if you're local to the Woodlands area or Kingwood, I would love, love, love to have you at a First Monday. It's $7. There's no long-term commitment. You come once, you don't have to come again. There's no, you got to give so much business, so many referrals, one-on-ones. I don't have time for that. Like I want to come for the first 2 hours of the month and I want to get my tank filled up. I want to love on people and be loved. And I want to go out and do my thing. And so that's what we do. $7 for usually 2 or 3 people who are teaching and pouring into you. And it's great. It really is great. And I am not saying that from a prideful way at all. And I want to make this very clear. And then I know we've been talking a long time, so we can be done. But I started the Grove in August 2019. We all know what happened in March 2020. So it was a great time to be starting a new business. However, the coolest thing is we expanded twice during COVID. So it was really cool. But oh, I just had Katrina brain. Oh, okay. So then in June,
The baby laughed.
I know June or July 2022, we started First Mondays. And we started them because I wanted to bring people into the Grove. Like I wanted women to come and see the Grove and what amazing community we had there. And then September 2023, when the Grove was closing, I was like, I don't want to lose First Mondays. Like that, it had become such an integral part of my life every month, and the way I felt and the way women were literally lives being changed at this quote unquote networking event. I kept doing them, guys, and I've been I don't make money on First Mondays. I don't make money. I am not doing this to make money. I am literally, and I don't have a place to refer you to. So it's not like I'm saying, come to this so that you can go to the Grove. I'm not. So what I'm saying is I want you to hear my heart behind this. The reason we do First Mondays and the reason I keep them going is because of you, because I want to pour into you. I want to be your mentor. If you're my age or older, come be a mentor. Like come and join in the community and just love on the younger women. And you younger women who come, keep me young. So it's just a win-win. And it is not about me making money. It is, I want you in the room for you.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to come to First Monday so you can experience what true community is like.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've sat and this isn't just a promotion type thing, right? Like I for sure would absolutely highly recommend First Mondays, but like just as an acknowledgement of what community can be, right? I cannot tell you how many times I have stepped into a First Mondays event and left with at least one thing that I asked God to answer for me. Like the last one I stepped in, I was like, God, I need a speaker for this event. For one of my previous, I think it was the second video in the series, I didn't have a speaker for, and I had no idea who was going to speak on that topic for me. Ended up sitting at the table with the lady who gave me the name of a friend who spoke on the topic for me. I was like, my ask, guys, is I need a speaker on health and like the power of the things that we eat and Jesus. And she's like, card, this is her number, literally wrote it on the back of her own business card for me. And so many, the power of the community you surround yourself with, it cannot be underestimated.
Right.
Whether in our business journey or our life in general. And the ladies that I have had the opportunity to work with on my entrepreneurial journey that I've surrounded myself with community-wise has been there not just for my entrepreneurial journey, but through the honest hardships that have hit while I've been along that journey. And I could not have imagined doing it without some of those ladies that I met on that journey.
Yeah. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful that you plugged in and that you've become a part of my community. So
yeah, honestly, that's Lori has, I think if I had to put you in one of my 5, it would for sure be a mentor, because I have business degrees. I have my master's. I knew the understanding of the business part, but I didn't know as much as I thought I knew in actually implementing some of this stuff into my actual walk. And you have been a fantastic mentor. I highly recommend reaching out to Lori if you haven't done so already.
Thank you. Heather asked in the comments if I could just recap the 5 real quick.
Yes.
So I will. So number 1 is I don't want to forget. So, oh my goodness, I lost my notes. Help me out. Pause. We're gonna pause for just a minute.
Leader, mentor,
Yeah,
peer group, friend,
mentor, cheerleader, encourager, but I missed
Okay.
the other two.
Friend, mentor, coach,
Mhm.
cheerleader slash encourager, peer group, and peer group.
Mhm.
So you've got those are your 5: friend, mentor, coach, cheerleader, peer group. You're welcome. Thank you for letting me be here. It's so good. So I appreciate you giving me the platform.
I am so glad you joined us.
Yeah, it's so great. All right, guys. I
Well,
hope to see you the first Monday.
I thank you all for joining us live, and I thank you for those who are going to end up watching later on. If you need anything, please reach out. You can find my information at reachlmc.com. Lori, how can people reach out to you?
LoriGasca.info.
And we would love to hear more from you. We have a couple more videos in the series. Our last week's video is postponed. I don't have a date for that yet, but when I do have a date for that, I'll also let you know. But we hope to see you for the, oh yes, we have a hand raised. Is it Tisbeth?
I think she was just giving us some hearts.
Got it. Okay, I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss somebody's question. Okay. So we hope to see you guys. I hope to see you guys for the remainder of the series. And I hope to see you at the first Monday, next Monday.
That's right. November 4th. All right.
And at the Growth Summit. If you haven't heard of that, please reach out to Lori, because honestly, it was also an amazing event that I have grown so much in. Just going to last January's changed my business drastically. So reach out, get more info, and connect to a community. Have a great day, everybody.
See you later.
Bye.